What's going on, beautiful people? Thank you for returning back to my channel, The Root Wave. In this episode, I have Devonte. Please say hello to my audience. Let them know where we can find you, please.
So right now, a lot of the content I'm putting out is on social media, live, but you can follow me on social media, specifically on Instagram at Devonte Magic, Devonte Magic. Yeah, Devonte Magic or Devonte Rosero on Facebook too. I mean, if you still go on Facebook, I put some stuff up there. Devonte Devonte. I'm spelling my name wrong. Devonte. Rosero is Rosero. All right, yeah.
And you have a website too, right?
Yeah, so the website's actually pretty cool. If you guys go on that, I have all the videos and all the stuff to catch up on who I am and what I do. That's also DevonteMagic.com. Same spelling, Devonte Magic.
Yeah, I was checking out your site before we made this call, and it's very well put. I'm also learning how to do my website, so I was taking some tips from there because I also have a lot of YouTube content, and it's pretty good how you merge them together with your website. And I've been doing the same thing. It's pretty awesome. But let's get back to you. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and then tell us a little bit about the good and bad of it.
So what I do is I try not to categorize myself, but an easier way to look at it is I'm an entertainer. I produce content. I'm a visual artist. So I do things both that are visual from the perspective of the eye, but also the mind. In my career, in my line of field, they call that a mentalist, a magician. And ultimately what I do is that I take that talent of being able to grab people's attention and create visual art. And I usually pair up with companies. So, whether it's a marketing company or Hermes. So I sort of mix the entertaining part of it with the visual art and maybe bringing in their story. So, for example, if their thing is like, reality is just a perception, I build that into my actual work.
Right. Now tell us a little bit about the good parts and the bad parts of that.
I don't know if there's any bad part. No, there's
that's a good answer.
Good parts. Yeah. I mean, the good parts is the fact that I enjoy what I do. I think that I have the right skill sets. I think I've been working a lot on myself over the years. Since I was 9, I've been, I was first into magic, and then I did, birthday parties, and then I was able to take the magic and tell stories with the magic. And then I realized, like, thinking outside the box, I was just thinking, I could do much more with this. So to me, it's the first good part of it is that I'm doing what I love. So it's all those years, all those things, I get to do that as a living. So that's the best part of it. Another good part of it is just like, most people wait around for Friday, Saturday for parties, because things happen. My life is literally going to parties, going to events, going to where things are happening, and I can, add value to that. So that's another good plus for me because I like that. Some of the down, it's at the end. I don't want to say this is down, but maybe the part that people don't see is that you're an entrepreneur at the end of the day. You don't, there's not I don't know. It's just not a company that you're working for as a magician. When you're a magician, might as well be, a rapper or something because you're figuring this out by yourself. And even a rapper has a production company even. But with a magician, you don't have a guy that's out there trying to, sell. You may have an agent here and there, but so I would say that's the harder part is working this as a business. I'm running my own business here. Yeah.
Right. So what tips would you give someone that's watching this and is also like a one-man army? Maybe you don't have it like laid out, but what are some like life, lessons that you learned in this time that you were like, I can give you guys this tip to get started and get all that stuff together so that way you can build some momentum for yourself, even given the fact that you are a one-person army. What would be some tips that you think you can shoot at us?
I think that the only reason you should sort of be proud that you're a one band army, which I'm not anymore, but the only reason you should be proud of that is because you're willing to start without anything. Right? You're willing to start from nothing. You have nothing. You don't have anybody. Great. Then you go out there. Some of the tips that I would say is get your own ideas. I mean, you just manage yourself, manage your own ideas. You don't have to manage other people. Can't afford people at the beginning. So you just manage your own thoughts, write them down, start executing on some simple ideas. And normally what I found is you don't recruit people before you start your idea. People will start coming after you've already started. So what I mean by that is, for example, social media and YouTube and Instagram, right? I'm still not on YouTube as I should be. And part of that is me, like, strategizing myself and trying to figure out what do I want to put on there. But Instagram, for example, I was able to take my own phone, just create content. And even if I'm wrong, I mean, you're starting off. You don't have any, you're not letting anybody but yourself down at the end. But, you're going to keep pushing through it. So it should be a learning process. And so when you start doing that, I started maybe 2 years ago. I was just like I was literally holding the phone with my teeth while I try to do things with my hand because I'm a magician. So I can't film myself. But I figured it out, you know what I mean? And it was not good, but it taught me what I needed to learn to get to the next level. And then my cousin is like, you know what, I'll help you, hold the camera. Like, I got you. And then he's like, hey, we could put it in 4K. Why don't we make, so all these other things came after. I don't think you should stay a one-man band. It's just, eventually it's not the smartest thing. You shouldn't be doing everything. You should learn, how to bring people in. And so now I have a team of, I want to say at least 10 people that just help me on a daily basis. Either it's, consulting or, helping me create. Yeah.
Well, you brought up a good point because a lot of people, they feel that they got to start at 100. And a lot of what all of this is and what I try to bring content is the realization and perspective of people realistically starting from zero and then just working their way up. Like you said, everything will come and fall into place as you need it to, because a lot of times as you progress, you're going to need more resources, or you're going to need more manpower, or you're going to need a different perspective, or people to come in and give you their side so that way you can continue to build. And that's just how business and growth in general, whatever aspect you want to consider it, that's usually how it starts. So I'm glad you brought that up. And tell us a little bit about what inspired you to actually get into magic.
What inspired me to get into magic? Great magicians like Lance Burton. He was a guy that I saw when I was a kid. It was just as magical as can be. And I also saw a magician at a summer camp type of thing that I was going to. Saw a magician live. He did something with somebody that I knew, like one of my teachers. He like put a blade through her arm, and as any kid would, the first time they see magic, they would just, like, what is this? And it wasn't until I went to a magic store, and then that became a hangout spot for me, that I really, that inspired me. Then I got to hang out with magicians. I got to see what was behind the scenes and how all of this is put together.
Right. Well, magic, there's a lot of skill behind it, and I'm sure you have to practice for a long time and make sure you get your craft up to par. But I want to talk a little bit more about the human side, the side of your audience, the people who you're doing the magic for. What have you learned over the years of being in front of people and working with them and then showing them your magic and entertaining them? What have you learned about human psychology and the way the mind works?
A lot. The first thing that I think every magician eventually will find out is how easy we're all fooled. And the second thing you learn after that, it's not that you're stupid and you get fooled. It's that you actually think you're really smarter than than you are, in essence. So your own ego, your own confidence is really what dooms you. And people say, no, I'm not slow. Go ahead, do it to me. You're the easiest to fool when you do that, because you're already set. You already know. You already, And I was that way, by the way, when I saw magic first. I was the kind of kid that I knew how everything was done. There was no trick that I didn't know how it was done. And the truth was, I didn't know how it was done, but I would make up all these ideas, these elaborate ideas. Like I saw one day a magician produce cards from his hand, and I should probably do it. No, but he produced cards, and I was just like, this is so stupid. He has a machine in his hand that goes through his sleeve and it throws the cards out. And obviously many years later, I realized there's no machine in his hand. He just practiced, an enormous amount of hours. And so the first one is that we as humans just simply, we just assume things, and then we back them up by like, yep, that's definitely how it is. And you don't even question yourself. And so I think that's, from the psychology perspective, I think that's the biggest lesson.
Right. Now, when you see that, and because I'm curious about these things, but when you see that, how do you connect that with society and the way we think as people?
Everything. I mean, it's scary because you can't even put your finger on every single thing, right? So like, I might be 1 second listening. I was listening to a podcast about it's the people that did the This American Life, the number one podcast everybody's talking about, the Adnan case.
Yeah,
If you don't know about it, it's the number one
yeah, it's good.
podcast. And the point is, they did another sort of series, if I'm not mistaken. And this time she goes into like courthouses, and she basically just studies the courthouse system. And she chose a random place. She wasn't targeting anything. There was no agenda. It was just like looking and being a fly on the wall, as she said. And basically, what I'm getting at is that, here's an example where you'll see the real implications that it has on the actual world, like people going away for life, and off of misconceptions, off of, so you absolutely know this, but then you realize like, well, maybe you didn't know it as much as you thought. And so obviously I think I immediately go to the court system because that's where it actually matters. You know what I mean? Usually that's where things are either passed or, people are blamed. And so, yeah, so that's where we definitely, I think, should pay a lot of it. And obviously politics, but politics, again, will probably end up in the court somewhere. So it's really the mind of those people in that court. The more open they are, the less mistakes they do. But whenever we know this is exactly what it is, you should be aware of that.
Yeah, that's crazy because sometimes you look at these magic tricks and you see them like surprised, like, oh my God, how did I get tricked? And then everyone's looking at it as just a simple magic trick, but sometimes I look at it in a bigger picture and I'm like, how does this affect us on a daily basis? On how we do business, how we talk to people, the court system, like you said, the school system, education. I mean, it's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm like, that stuff interests me.
Hurts my head. I mean, imagine relationships, the way you're raising your kids, what you're eating, what you're consuming, what you're putting out to the world. I mean, literally everything. I mean, know thyself, right? So that's the first thing. You
Yeah.
should know thyself. Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like that's something that when I watch all this stuff, no one's really addressing, and maybe it's because the magician doesn't want to explain that hey, people can be gullible and be taken. But I also feel like it's gonna happen regardless, and I also feel like we should pay attention to these things because look, the sleight of hand happens everywhere.
Right.
It's not just in magic. But yeah, it's pretty interesting and it's awesome. It's something to always keep in mind, and I think people need to look at that also when they do business. I think in business we do the same thing. Whether we're being promoted or we're promoting something, we're always trying to do that sleight of hand and make sure that people understand what's going on, but at the same time grab them enough to be like, "Hey, look," and then and catch them, right, or trick them, or whatever the word is. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's in the future for you? What are you looking at? What are you doing short term, and what are you looking forward to long term?
So short term is to continue doing what I've been doing, which is collaborating with brands like Hermes, Colgate, whether, and being able to just get a message that they have, deliver it in a way, like you just said, I mean, you grab them but doing it, I think magicians have you kind of have that connotation of a magician, like as a trickster or a cheater and I think that it is that way. I mean, as the great magician Di Vernon said, people don't want to be fooled. You know what I mean? Because it's annoying. It's like, so your job really as a magician is to make you enjoy that moment. And I work, I would hope that I'm working really hard on trying to figure out how do I become a human being doing this stuff. And so I think the immediate thing is, immediately taking my skill sets, communicating with people, either a message, but just something honest. So it could be my honest message. It could be maybe in the sense of another company's honest message, something that I feel like, okay, I like where they're taking this. Let me see how I can now visually create this, which is going to now engage people. So that's what I'm doing. And that obviously pays the bills because that's what I do for a living. I do this week on Friday. I'm going to go to Los Angeles to do that for Hermes they have a Beverly Hills location, and basically they have they have a product, but they want to create an experience with that product and actually tell a story and go deeper, because as somebody that's going to spend that amount of money on it usually wants more than just a bottle with liquid. And so that's what I'll be doing with them, and hopefully with other brands. The other thing that's sort of pressing right on me is this I want to start opening up my magic to the public community, meaning normally people see me in like private engagements or if you follow me on Instagram, but there's no real place to come see me. And so come March 24th, which is a Friday, we're looking at putting the Secret Garden on again, which is a magic show that we co-created with my friend Michael Six Muldoon and Levon, who are both great entertainers, but also they have amazing skill sets. One is let me see if I get it right, a mnemonist. He remembers things. You know, he's a memory expert, and the other, who's my friend and creative mind, he's a magician. He's he's a great entertainer, and so he does a lot of good sleight of hand, and so it's a show where we're all bringing all these skill sets. Me as the mentalist, Six as the magician, and Levon as the mnemonist, who's just an incredible brain. There's no magic behind that. He just remembers everything, in front of him. And so it's an experience that we're putting on. And so that's what's pressing. Where we want to be a year from now is that show much more developed, possibly, on an off-Broadway or Broadway stage. And I think a year from now, I'm really interested in what the kind of content I'm going to be putting out on YouTube. I've been only on Instagram, but I think YouTube is going to open up another avenue for me, and we're ready for it. I have a lot of content we want to create, and we have the team and the momentum. So yeah, now live shows and private gigs. We should have called them private gigs, but private, ambassadorships. And a year from now, social media, YouTube, Well, so plug for YouTube. My YouTube is Magic Devonte. Somebody took Devonte Magic, so we had to switch it around. Magic Devonte. So YouTube.com/Magic Devonte. You'll see some of my videos up there.
Give us one more time your Instagram and your website as well, since we're plugging the YouTube as well.
Yep. So my Instagram, again, is Devonte Magic. So I post up daily videos, magic videos and reaction. That's DEVONTE, and then the word magic, MAGIC. That's on Instagram. If you put that into Google, you'll find my website, because it's also DevonteMagic.com. And on YouTube, of course, backwards, Magic Devonte.
Yeah, I'm going to put all that information not only below, but in the description, but also I'll be displaying it on the screen as well. So that way others can just grab their phone and start going at it. Now, before I let you go, and I do really appreciate you being on, I want to just have you give us a little send-off, something motivational and positive to somebody that might be watching, that might say, you know what, look at the hustle, look at that, he's doing things, maybe get them off the couch and get them going and doing things that, that not only are they passionate about, but know that they'll be able to sustain it long term.
Yeah. Know thyself, man. I mean, you gotta really become interested in yourself. And like, I think if I was sitting on a couch, which I definitely was at one point, I think I'd just start asking more questions, right? Because I think questioning, I mean, even though that takes some mental power, just start questioning. And because I can't motivate. I mean, you eventually find the motivation yourself. Maybe this video motivates you, but it wasn't because of me. It was because you were ready to be motivated. So if you're maybe just listening to this in the background, you're doing something, and this is not really your focus, for obvious reason, maybe that's why you're on the couch, is just be like, okay, what is he talking about? Like, question myself. Well, I think simple. It's like, well, what do you, why are you sitting down on the couch all the time? And so just becoming really inquisitive about yourself. I think following what you love to do is usually a good start. Some people might say, well, I don't know what I like to do. You just have to think a little bit harder. I don't care if you play video games all day. You have more knowledge on video games than anybody else. Let's say you watch TV all day. You probably have more knowledge on something than everybody else, maybe Game of Thrones, or I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's just really, I put a quote up recently that said, I was always looking to change my circumstances, and we all know we can't really change our the things around us. But what you can change is how you look at the thing around you. And so I think a lot of people are in a situation saying, well, I see that I have to get up, go to the gym, maybe I have to work out, maybe I have to build that business, I got to get the camera out. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to just relook at, like, what am I doing, and reframe it for yourself. And say, what can I start doing right now? And so you can't change it immediately, the things around you, but you can change the way you look at it. And again, maybe because I'm a big, thinker, I guess, or always in my head. And if you're that kind of person, I think you can get far in your own head. And I'm a believer that you can get yourself to action. You can't hope for it. I'm not saying hope for it. I'm saying a real questioning. And following that questioning. So, yeah, man. Yeah. From a magician to the world, questions are good, and mysteries, and you're a big mystery to yourself. That's probably why you're not executing completely on yourself.
That's right. I love that you said that, because it's important. That's how my journey started as well. I started questioning myself. and just self-awareness and just building myself up, and then realizing like, yo, it was in me the whole time, and now I'm ready. I was always ready for it, but now I was ready for it. If that, like you said, right? Like you can watch this and not be motivated, but then someone else might watch and say, holy shit, this is what sparked my fire right now. But
Right.
yeah, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you being on the channel. I'm glad that I got to interview you because you brought up a lot of great points that I'm trying to portray to people and give them your perspective so that way they can get motivated and, learn a little bit more about life,
Right.
understand things and understand themselves a little better. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the channel.
So where
Yep.
here, we'll put it a little bit on Instagram here. Where do we tell people to go to see this eventually? How
Sure,
do they see it?
sure. So you can go to www.therootwave.com. You can also go to Instagram at the Root Wave, and then you can just follow the links. It'll take you to also my YouTube channel, which is on the Root Wave, and then you can check out a little bit of what's coming up, all upcoming events that I'm putting together or helping put together, the people that I'm working with, consulting, and then also the content that I'm bringing up. I also
Okay.
sell these dope little hats too if you want
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, I'll send you one. You just give me the address. But
Yeah.
Devonte, thank you so much for being on my channel. I mean, and for allowing me to, ask you some questions and inspire people that I'm trying to inspire. Thank you so much. I'm going to display all the information below to my audience. I'll catch you around in the next episode. Peace. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.